I am Chris Cassidy, this is the NuSun Network, and we're here today in Puerto Banus with Michael, the Managing Director of Metawealth. I'm really excited about this. We're going to be talking about the tokenization of real estate and what it could mean for you as an investor. So Michael, can you tell me about, and the audience about, who you are and what it is you do?
Well, first off, Chris, thank you for very much for having me here today. I've been following what you've been doing with the podcast and the work you've been doing, and it's fantastic work. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
As you mentioned, my name is Michael Topolinski IV. I'm Managing Director of Investor Relations at Metawealth. And basically what I do is I work with our customers to first off onboard them into the platform. I help them with the process of actually investing, of joining the community. And then once they join the community, it's my department's responsibility to help manage them, to give them the right quality of customer care, which in our opinion is white glove customer service. And basically we help them make the right decisions and make different decisions with Metawealth and ensure that the experience that they have is top tier.
So what is Metawealth? Can you tell everyone?
Yeah, so Metawealth has a few different components, but the platform itself is essentially a facilitator that brings investors to real estate investment opportunities. And we facilitate the exchange between investors to actually acquire parts of these real estate investment opportunities. Now, the thing that we do at Metawealth and the value that we bring to the table essentially is that we tokenize these real estate investment opportunities so that anyone can become a real estate investor with only $100 from anywhere in the world in less than 5 minutes. So we've essentially eliminated all the cross-border problems or hesitations or challenges with investing. We've lowered the price barrier to entry for investing. And we've also provided a platform where you can diversify in a very simple way, all within 5 minutes.
So you mentioned you can invest in a property for as little as $100, or obviously you can put more in. So sort of you're buying a fraction of a property. But how does that work? How does it work in this luxury real estate market?
So when we're talking about fractional ownership in relation to Metawealth, we're talking about tokenized real estate assets. And basically what you're doing is you're buying a token that represents a share of a package of real estate or a particular real estate asset. And when it comes to luxury real estate, particularly in Costa del Sol, the first benefit that we bring to the table is the accessibility. For sure, Costa del Sol, Marbella is known as a European hotspot and ultimately demands a lot of international buyers and high net worth buyers, which makes a lot of these properties very expensive and essentially inaccessible for most people. And with our platform, that's the first thing that we bring to the table is that you can now acquire some of the most highly sought after real estate in Costa del Sol for only $100 as a piece of that particular package. But the next thing that we do in terms of the luxury real estate in Costa del Sol as well is that we open the market to a larger audience or a more international audience of investors. So Costa del Sol definitely demands international investors and they do come to the market. But what we've been able to successfully do is tokenize several real estate assets in the area and bring investors from more than 23 different countries in the world into these particular projects and assets, which I understand it's an international hotspot here, but that's a larger quantity of...
It definitely is.
It's a broader scale or a broader scope of international investors. So we provide those benefits to the luxury market. And right now we're working with some great developers, but we are looking to provide even more highly sought after real estate.
So you mentioned about the fractional ownership potentially, but also tokenization. So I'm assuming there's a technology involved in this. So can you tell us a bit more about what this is and how it works?
For sure. So within the infrastructure that we have, there's two different components. There's the tokenized Web3 world where the actual process of tokenization happens. And then there's the real world assets and the infrastructure that happens there. So in terms of tokenization, it's necessary today to use the blockchain to tokenize these assets and to create these tokens or shares of these particular assets. Due to different legal restrictions with SPV companies and things like this, which create restrictions on number of investors that can participate, the quantity of assets that you can bring to the table, and whatnot. So the blockchain is used in a way that we can take these assets, put tokens that are registered on the blockchain, and that records your ownership on that scale and on that particular part of the equation. On the real world part of the equation, of the infrastructure, there's the platform itself, which you download in the real world, and you download on your phone, and you can use a platform within immediately on your phone, on your computer. We have a mobile app, we have a web app that you can use. But we essentially use SPVs to gain ownership of these assets and provide the ownership rights to the investors of the assets.
Okay, so in the SPV it would show you, you would have an idea about what it is you own and everything else, but
Correct.
specifically the token that you would get would be your contract in some way, is that?
There's traditional contracts involved as well. Within Spain and within the EU today, we use something called the PPL contract, which is a participatory loan contract, essentially. And this loan, this contract connects the token to the buyer, to the investor, and to the company, to the SPV holder of the assets, and essentially allows for all of our investments to be regulated securities through a regulator approved by the CMMV here in Spain.
Perfect.
Yeah. So you have, in terms of your actual ownership tracking and documentation, you have the token, you have your certificate of ownership within the application, and then you also have traditional contracts involved as well.
So for the blockchain, how does that secure the funds for investors?
So the big thing with the blockchain is that this is a public ledger. The access to information is very easy, it's very simple, and therefore the transfer of funds, the transfer of tokens, the transfer of property ownership rights essentially can be tracked in a very public way. When you look at the traditional ownership path and documentation and tracking and things like this, everything's registered in the land registry or the land books, however you refer to them. You can gain access to the information, but it's not readily accessible on your computer within minutes.
Especially in Spain.
Yes, so it's a process. So basically, with the blockchain, you have the public aspect to it, which I think is a big advantage over the traditional land registry. At the same time, the blockchain itself, there isn't enough benefit to merit any human manipulation. Yeah. So to try to hack the blockchain, to actually put in effort in that, the rewards that you would gain do not merit the effort that you'd have to put behind doing that. So it's essentially a non-corruptible entity or tracking or ledger, essentially. Yep. While in the world there are examples of human error, human manipulation within the land registries. Yeah. I also come from a market and work in a market where this has happened before, Romania. Right. With the blockchain, you basically eliminate that human error at the same time.
So Michael, tell me about what can investors expect here in terms of the benefits of investing in Metawealth?
So the first benefit is that you're going to see properties that are typically more exclusive, highly sought after properties from multiple markets in the world. Today, we've been in market for a little over a year. We operate and provide assets from 2 different markets today, but by the end of the year, we hope to expand the number of markets where we have assets to 6 within the EU. Okay. So we're looking to provide exclusive real estate. Now, at the same time, that provides you the ability to diversify your portfolio in a very simple way in multiple markets, which is an effective measure or an effective strategy in lowering the risk of your portfolio and ultimately also maximizing your returns at the same time. So with Metawealth, we are real estate professionals. We have a few different components. Our founding group is made of real estate professionals that have a combined experience of over 50 years within real estate as fund managers, asset managers, investors ourselves, and also developers, which some of our members continue to do today. So you're getting access to that and the assets that come with that. And ultimately on the returns based off that experience, we're putting investment strategies in place that are providing maximal returns and utilizing the technology in an effective way. So our assets are either finalized assets that are providing rental yield and market appreciation on a yearly basis.
Okay.
For the rental yields that we try to attain on a long-term basis, they are typically a minimum of around 7%, just on long-term rental. On short-term rental, we have a higher scope of return there. The second asset class that we have is, or investment strategy that we have is what we call pre-construction. So we try to buy apartments or assets at the first price of a greenfield project that got licensing and all that. And for these particular assets, what we do is that we pay in advance, our investors pay in advance, and then by the time that they're finished and that they're constructed and they're rented, we resell those assets within the application to a new group of investors.
Okay.
This strategy basically provides you a leverage or a multiple on the return on your cash. Because let's say you're buying an apartment that's 100,000 euro. You pay 100,000 euro and it goes up to 130,000. You made 30%.
Yeah.
But if you buy an apartment that's 100,000 euro and you pay 30%, it goes up to 130,000 euro in value, and you flip it before you have to pay the difference, you made 100% on your money.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the benefit of the technology and what we do at Metawealth. And outside of this, we provide white glove customer service. We do try to help our customers make smart decisions and de-risk their investments.
And just in terms of a number, then, if an investor was to one of these pre-construction projects, for example, can you give us an idea about what you would expect that return to be?
Yeah. So
and how long it would take to get that return?
So our goal with pre-construction assets is to find assets that generate a 20% or more yearly return through this particular investment strategy that we have now.
Awesome.
And the typical time for the actual return to be realized ranges between 1.5 years to 2 years, depending on the particular asset. But the one thing that we also provide on these assets is we wanted to provide more cash flow for our investors, because if you do invest in pre-construction assets in the traditional world, you typically only make money on the exit. That's when you actually make your money and make your return. We wanted to change it a little bit where our investors started to get cash flow and make part of their return from month one. So they all receive a monthly cash yield during the term of construction. And that part of the actual return is differentiated by asset. But you're getting access to part of your return from month one.
Wow, okay. So you're seeing that very quickly.
Yes.
It's really interesting that, and I think 20% return's massive.
Yeah, it's massive if you think about just appreciation on the asset, that's massive. But if you think about what that actually means on the appreciation of the price of the total asset, it really equates to about 6% per year appreciation on that particular asset.
Yeah.
So we're not saying that prices are increasing 20% a year.
No.
We're saying that it's a cash on cash 20% per year return.
Yeah, because you're able to flip that before the sale.
Exactly.
Ultimately.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Just on this then, while we're on this conversation, so properties can change in prices, market dynamics can shift.
Yes.
So if I was to invest in one of these properties, how would I be able to get that return back? And how do you safeguard this against any market issues happening or anything else that might hit us?
So first off, we have an asset acquisitions department where we do full due diligence. So we do all the due diligence, particularly on the property and whatnot. But we also work with third-party evaluators to provide realistic valuations on what those properties would be worth today if they were constructed.
Okay.
So we have For sure, with every investment, there's risk. We cannot 100% eliminate risk from the table with investments. But what we do for our investors within the application is that we provide them institutional grade due diligence, reports, security, so that they can make the best decision and the safest decision for them. But the one other thing that our assets have, which in our opinion makes Costa del Sol in Spain very unique, and a very safe market to invest in pre-construction assets, is that all of our investments have a bank guarantee or insurance guarantee on the advances, which basically reduces risk significantly in the case that a developer fails to actually finalize the project. But that is more of a Spain-specific benefit and is a little bit more market-dependent. The main scope is that our due diligence is very high level. We work with colliers typically for valuations, and we do everything we can to safeguard our investors. That's our priority.
So Michael, you mentioned you've got quite a few projects in different countries. I'm specifically interested in here because I'm being a bit selfish. So can you tell me about the projects you've got going on right now in the Costa del Sol and why it's an attractive place for investors?
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to talk about those specific projects in one quick second. The only thing that I want to say before that is that after 1 year in the market, we have successfully tokenized 19 million euros worth of assets, real estate assets, over 100 unique properties within this portfolio, in 6 different asset packages or investment packages. Now, in terms of these assets in Costa del Sol, we came to Costa del Sol in November of last year, so a little bit over half a year ago. We started by opening an office here in the market and a team and whatnot. But we also opened our first investment package, which is called Monet Residence. We acquired 7 apartments at this particular project. And that particular asset package came through our collaboration with Prime Invest, a really well-known developer and promoter here in the region. That particular package and what makes those units very attractive overall is, first off, that we were able to buy or acquire prices in the first before the first 50% of the units were sold. So we were able to acquire units at a very low price considering the prices that are on the market now. And if you go on the application and compare prices, you'll see that yourself. So that's one of the big things, because we're focused on investments more than anything. But these properties also have panoramic views of the actual coast and the sea, and also the mountains. So you have the perfect blend of the sea and mountains at these particular properties. They are located in Benalmádena and very close to the actual beach. So in our opinion, that project provides all the necessities that you'd want at home, or at least in the vicinity of your home. And the quality of the construction, the quality of the layouts are very attractive as well. So the typical big terraces, beautiful rooms, nice compartmentalization of the assets over there. The second package that we have is 4 luxury villas from a project called Vivace Contemporary Villas in Valle Romano, very close to Estepona. We find that this particular package of assets, again, is attractive for investors, first off, based off price, because the prices that we bought these assets at, in our opinion, are the exit price that we need for our investors to make the 43.5% return that we have projected in the application, are equivalent to some of the comparables in the market today. So we're not seeing that you need a massive appreciation of the market for our investors to actually realize these returns, which is a big strength. But also these particular villas are located on the golf course. Costa del Sol is a golf hotspot, obviously, in Europe. So you have multiple golf courses in your immediate vicinity. You again have Estepona, which is only 10 minutes away from the project. So you have that energetic lifestyle of Estepona. But you also have the peace and tranquility of Valle Romano. So if you're someone that loves golf, perfect place. If you're someone who likes to have a peaceful home and the tranquility of the mountains, perfect place. And if you do want to have the nightlife and the bustle of Estepona, it's not far away.
I'm a realtor myself, right? So I know the market. Benalmadena, excellent location. Estepona, excellent location as well. Benalmadena lands at a premium there because there's just not that much unless you go way back out in the mountains. So it sounds like you've got a really good spot there. And Estepona is massively up and coming as well, and it's expanding every day. So definitely some good future prospects, I think, for that.
Yeah, and I think kind of talking about the Estepona and the Valle Romano one specifically, I mean, when we're looking at our investments, we're looking at the immediate opportunity today, but our long-term strategy is to hold these assets with the rental yield for the long term.
It makes sense.
So we are looking at areas where we have to kind of balance between the high demand, highly developed areas today that provide a particular return, and the areas that we believe are going to become that high demand, highly developed area overall, and kind of balance, a bit of both to maximize the returns.
So I'm really liking what you've been saying about these projects, about the returns also, massively appealing. But for those listening and for those watching, how do they go about doing this? What is it they need to do to get involved?
As I mentioned earlier, it's a very simple process. It takes 5 minutes. The first step is that you should reach out to Chris, because Chris is a professional realtor and can definitely help you make some smart investment related decisions connected with real estate, obviously. But outside of that, the first step is to go into your phone and you search on your Google Play or App Store for Metawealth. Download the application, make your account. From there, you can then transfer fiat currency, so through wire transfer or through card or credit card into your account. You can also use cryptocurrency, USDC, and do wallet-to-wallet transfer to your account. From there, when you want to buy the asset, you simply go to the asset page, click buy, and determine how many tokens you want to buy or how much you want to invest in that particular asset. And finalize KYC, which up to 25,000 euros is simply just selfie and ID card. Beyond that, there's a few other things like proof of income that are needed for anti-money laundering and whatnot. But ultimately, for your first investment, the whole process takes 5 minutes, and you acquire property immediately. So it's a very fast process.
That's awesome. And just for those maybe who don't understand what fiat currency is and too much about the crypto side of things, so I'm assuming they can just go on, they can use their bank account.
Yes.
And ultimately go through that process.
Fiat currency simply refers to euros, dollars, whatever currencies used where you live. So
they live. So they just go on and they can go through, they can use the application.
Correct.
And is there any sort of instructional type documents or videos that maybe talks them through the process?
We do. So within the application, there's different areas with FAQs, with different instructional videos. I think that if you download the application today, you'll find that it's a very user-friendly application, for sure. And we do everything we can to try to help people understand the process and take them through the process very easily.
I mean, I can agree, right? Because I downloaded the app because I knew you were coming on. And I put a couple $100 in it, just to test it out, right? And I found it very, very simple. I mean, I do have a little bit of knowledge of crypto, but it never felt like dealing with crypto at all. You're just adding in money and then you're buying a token.
Correct.
And then you get the contract and it shows you've got this part of the project and it gives you little updates.
Yes.
And it tells you other people are investing as well, or just as a VIP, but it tells you someone else is invested. So I think it feels like a community. Which I really liked about it, and you're seeing the progress of the development as well, which I found really interesting. So I found it very user-friendly.
And the one thing you mentioned just about the community, that is a big aspect of what we're trying to do here, because essentially with Metawealth, you're supporting the globalization of real estate investing. I mean, you're making it so that someone that's living in Texas, USA, and another person that's living in Hong Kong, China, can both invest in the same asset together and participate in that asset together, and essentially create more of a community between these investors.
Yeah.
So we also provide different programs for our community. We created what we call a Zenith VIP program, which is actually focused purely on building this community or this networking effect between investors. And it's kind of perfect timing because we're actually having our first VIP Platinum retreat right now.
Awesome.
Where we have a little over 30 investors from 9 different countries in the world participating in our first iteration ever. And it's very clear that with this type of technology and with tokenization and with Metawealth, you're going to be able to create that global network over time.
Yeah, and you won't really get that anywhere else. Normally, standard procedure, you buy a property and you own it and that's it. But this is all going towards you get a part of the property, you see it grow, you've got the community, you've got the security of the blockchain, and obviously the excellent due diligence and expertise that you guys have got at Metawealth.
Yeah, and also just the actual regulatory security on that investments as well. I mean, all of the money flow, all the transactions are monitored by an approved regulator through the CMMV. It's not exactly the same regulation as like a stock or something like that, but for tokenized real estate, it's the most advanced regulation in the EU today, and I would generally say within the world today.
Okay, so Michael, what do you see has been the future of the tokenization in the luxury real estate market?
Yeah, so I think that tokenization will become a mainstream part of real estate ownership and investing. Today it's focused on investing, but ultimately I believe that it will also become part of pure ownership in the long term. And the reason for that is simply because the utility and the benefits that come with this technology and this process are simply difficult to deny. And it's a new market, it's a developing market. We're a startup as well within this market. So there's multiple steps that have to come. But at the end of the day, in the history of humanity, if the utility is great enough to merit the effort to get to that utility, humanity typically gets there. Yeah. If you think about the internet back at the beginning of the internet, everyone thought that was a crazy idea that wouldn't work, and look at how our world is today.
Yeah.
So with tokenization, I believe it will become mainstream and a very significant portion of the global real estate ownership and investment environment. When I say this as well, I'm also talking from the perspective of a traditional real estate professional. So, as I mentioned, we started by raising a fund in 2007 when we came to Europe, a 40 million euro fund where we acquired property, we managed these properties and whatnot. We then became real estate developers and develop properties in continuation today through another company that we have. And from our perspective, the ability to provide more accessibility to assets in markets where assets are very inaccessible. Luxury market is for sure one of them in most markets throughout the world. Yeah. The ability to cross-border invest in minutes. The ability to diversify in different markets in minutes. And then the ability to also divest in portions your assets, I think provides enough utility that the utility merits effort, essentially. So, in our opinion, it will become mainstream.
I think so too.
Yeah. I think BlackRock would also say the same.
Yeah, exactly. So, Michael, from your perspective, I'm a realtor, you're a realtor as well. What advice would you give to people interested in investing in real estate?
So first off, obviously due diligence is essential. You have to do very strong due diligence, and at Metawealth we do a lot of due diligence. Yep. We try to provide institutional grade due diligence for investors. But ultimately, if you look at the statistics over many markets, now every market's a little nuanced, yep. But I'll talk in a little bit more of a general frame of general scope. Since 2022, we saw major increases in inflation, which resulted in government policies and economic policies to raise interest rates to combat inflation. That had different effects in different markets, but ultimately it brought either slower transactions, depreciation of asset prices, dependent on the market. So essentially it created a little bit of pain in the global market. Now, what we saw recently with the European Central Bank is that the interest rates are starting to come down because the inflation problem is now starting to become a lot more controllable, and essentially these efforts to raise interest rates have been effective so far. So what we see in the future in our prediction of markets, again, it's nuanced between markets, but the general scope of what we see generally is that right now is an opportune time to acquire property, to invest in property, considering the fact that there's been either depreciation or affordability levels have increased because prices have not increased and salary levels have increased, depending on the market. But overall, now is a great time to acquire property, as long as you do the due diligence behind it to make sure it's a safe investment and a safe developer and all of that. We see a very, very opportunistic period coming forward with many markets and significant appreciation on the assets in the near term.
So now is the right time to invest, and due diligence is
now is the right
key.
time to call Chris and get some help with investing.
100% agree.
Assets.
I 100% agree with you. Thank you. So Michael, thanks for sharing everything about Metawealth. I think it's a fantastic new thing that's around, but it feels like you guys are ahead of the curve on it. I'm really interested in the two developments you've got in the Costa del Sol. Hopefully the audience will be as well. But thanks for sharing everything. Thanks for talking about the security, educating us a little bit on the blockchain technology as well, which will be new for a lot of listeners and viewers. So thank you for coming along, and I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you
very
as well.
much.
I
Thanks.
appreciate it. Thank you.